Her dream was realized when in 2008 she founded Latincouver and created a virtual plaza for Latinos to gather and connect with locals and other members of their community. Latincouver has amazing achievements like the biggest Latin American festival in the Pacific Northwest, Carnaval del Sol, which gathers more than 100,000 people every year. And this project, the LCBN, the Latin Canadian Business Network, that started as a dream, as a way to network one another, to network Canadians and Latinos living in Canada, and now with Latinos living abroad, started as a professional network, and now it has grown to become this business network, which you are now looking at, and will continue to grow. Canada is an advisor, Paola is an advisor for the government of British Columbia in the Ministry of Intercultural Exchange and for the political party Vision Vancouver, and a member of Vancouver's Multicultural Advisory Committee. Welcome, Paola. You're in.
Mute. Okay, this is all new for us. So thank you very much, Pablo. I'm going to be sharing my screen as well. So this is very exciting for us to be here. This is our first webinar. And you will see how within what I'm talking is this is why it's excited for us to be now here with you, part of this big community that we're creating, and that we are actually very resilient to what is happening. So I am going to start sharing my screen with, I'm going to do a small presentation here. And if I may, Pablo, I'm going to, let me see. Start. Now, how can I share?
Share screen?
Yeah, share now. That's it, right? Can see present like this. Can we see it now? Can everyone see it now?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, good. So I'm calling the presentation Recalculating. I feel like recalculating is what we are doing, and probably most of us, this is what we do all the time. So I feel like this is quite appealing to my life and what we have been doing with the planning and organizing, which is what we do the best in Latincouver. I'm going to play this little video, few seconds. It's actually a commercial, and probably they will be happy that I'm advertising it. So here we go. So let's see if it comes up.
We live in strange times. The housing bubble burst, rise of China, and the rise of inequality. Health is a...
Sorry, it's not that one. It's this one. It's a commercial that I was watching a few years ago.
Recalculating. Go straight to a steady job. Recalculating. Stay single until you're 34. Recalculating. Follow the company rules. Recalculating. Start a diet. Recalculating. 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 Introducing your all-new Jeep Compass. Love, hope, happiness.
So what I wanted to say with that, this is, that commercial really touched me. This is 2017 and it's a Jeep commercial. But it really made me feel like this is what we do all the time. This is what it's like our life about. And this is what we're doing right now as well. We're recalculating what we are doing, what we're planning. We all have these end goals, but actually are mean goals, because it's an objective that we are involved, that we want to achieve. But it's never a straight line. It's always like different ways that we are. If we have this objective, we will be arriving there. But it takes many shapes and all of you probably, if you go back to your life, you will see many places where you know that you are recalculating. So I feel like this is how my recalculation has started from day one, when this journey started with Latincouver, with our LCBN has taken many shapes and changes. And it was a network. And the idea was to connect. What do we need to do to bring the community together? In which shape? I didn't know. But I wanted to bring the community together. It doesn't matter if we are Chilean, Colombian, Mexico, whatever, whichever country, we need to connect in order to grow. As a being immigrant and moving from one place to another and trying to find opportunity, I felt like if we didn't work together, it was going to be a harder journey. And coming to Vancouver, that's how I felt. And I think that was the best thing that I wanted to bring to Canada, is who we are, but also how can we support each other. And that was the whole concept. But within this recalculation, it took many ways, and many people saying, and I can mention the amount of times and people that I heard, this is not going to work, this is going to change, this is going to be, you need to define, it's going to be culture, it's going to be business, you need to make it in a different way, because you guys, you cannot put an organization that will focus in culture and business. I'm like, well, I'm not trying to fit a box for people to see it. I am trying to fit a box that it makes sense for what I'm trying to create and help. So that was my objective at that time, not trying to fit somebody's goals and somebody's box, but the box that it will make sense for me to make something happen. So, and this is, from this network, this is what happened now. This is what we bring today, Latincouver, with another program that's called Carnival del Sol. But at the end, it was my main goal, is to bring the community together, is to bring things. But again, within those examples, and what it made me very humble, and the organization be very humble, is that we can do our best, but always something is going to be faced. A new challenge will be faced, something very clear, for example, with Carnival del Sol for us, is that we can work for 9 months, no stopping. And everything can be beautiful, all the planning, all the artists, everything is amazing. And then suddenly, boom, what happened? The forecast, it tells us that it's going to be an awful weekend. Would you imagine how we feel as an organization, as what we're going to respond or what is going to happen? We cannot control the weather. And it's okay. That makes us humble. We cannot control the weather, but we need to find solutions, make the best of it, bring the community anyway, invest our best on that day. And this, for me, this situation is what is coming to bring us, like all those moments that it has been saying, you know what, it's time to move on, and we cannot cover ourselves, but we need to respond. Actually, with just this network event that we were going to have it at Latincouver. That was our own goal, have a networking event, a Latin Plaza Hub. We're going to connect the community, and we're super excited about that. But guess what? At the end, we couldn't do much, because then now we have a problem. They're telling us that we cannot meet. So should we cancel? Should we change? Should we cover ourselves? Well, I think that at that time, as a team, we come together and say, let's not change it, let's adapt. We're going to adapt, let's be stronger, and let's bring our community. This is a new way for us to connect, and we hope that this is going to be a series of webinars that we're going to bring to you, because that's, at the end, if it's physical or it's online, this is what we're trying to do as a Latincouver. Let's bring the community together. We want to see our entrepreneurs actually raising their hands and doing their best in these moments. I don't think that any of us have an answer of what we're facing, but I think that the best tools that we can use right now is taking examples of our past life, that's not our past experiences, and bringing it into and applying right now. So one of the things that for me, and I think that we should be thinking about, is what it has been helping me, is to be in leader, in control, in like, okay, we can put this together. Feel that you have those skills that are going to be supporting your network. You as a business owners right now, it's easy to say, oh my gosh, and be afraid. We all are there. But I think that we need to be strong right now and be on top. And your team needs to know that you are on top and you have it. You know, you have everything. You are finding the resources. You are trying to communicate. That's very important. And I have another one as communication. Communications is a tool that it will allow us to connect better, right? Now that I think we're very lucky in a way, because it's not what happened 20, 30 years ago. If this will happen, we will be completely isolated. People is telling us be isolated, but we're not. I have been more connected than ever in the last 2 days, talking on the phone, calling. You know, we have this middle. My team connect now. Like we have had, I don't know how many minutes already by webinar. So that's a great thing to do right now that we're doing it. And the planning your day, your next week, and your next month. I don't think that we have a lot of more ahead. I can say that people are like, what is going to happen in 5 months? We don't know. Right now, we just continue planning for right now and trying to do our best and working together. I think that this is what we need to do, and this is what we're trying to do with Latincouver. You know, there are going to be more initiatives coming up, but let's communicate, let's work together. We want to create this channel in order for people to see, okay, who is doing this? Like, I am a painter, I sell empanadas, I don't care what we're all doing, but we all have a skill. So we don't those skills. We need to make sure that the community comes together, that we work with the government together with them, but that we don't feel alone, that we have your back. And that's pretty much right now my presentation. I have a little bit more things to say, but I'm just going to go. Don't forget to look for your sources of more information. Latincouver is providing information in the website, but also look into what Government of Canada is saying. I really love this one, the source from Business in BC. They have a lot of information, Small Business BC. So make sure, but don't be overwhelmed. And we will be providing you with a lot of information as well. So if you want, please feel free to contact us, call us, we're here. And here, my last one, we will get through this together. And I totally believe in this, because from this, we're going to create a lot of opportunities. And, you know, this is going to be only the new thing that are going to happen from this. And this is the only thing I wanted to say. Again, thank you so much. Thank you for being here with us. Hopefully, we're going to be continuing this communication. And if please reach out to me or to anyone in the team. Thank you.
Thank you, Paola. Thanks, Paola Murillo, founder and director of Latincouver. And now we will continue our presentations with our international guest, well, international and local as well, as every one of us, Glenn Sigurdson. Glenn is an internationally recognized as a mediator of complex multi-party challenges. Let me just share my screen properly to all of you. We're all being resilient here. So let's make it work. So here you are. Can you see Glenn? Yes. So the topic Glenn will be talking about us today is what will it take? Growing a conversation about working effectively in a COVID-19 world. As I was saying, he has one of the particular focuses that Glenn has had is being a resource, environment, and land use issues, often involving Indigenous rights and interests. He has a proven track record working internally within organizations and across them in diverse sectors, mining to oil and gas, fish to forests, pipelines to transmission lines, energy and water. He was profiled by the Public Negotiation at Harvard Law School, Public Dispute Mediators, profiles of 15 distinguished careers in the year 2000. He's a senior dialogue associate of the Maurice J. Wosk Center for Dialogue, where he led a major initiative from 2001 to 2005 called the Dialogue Forum, Knowing Dialogue Through Dialogue, and a very important tool for these days. He's a teacher, a speaker, a writer. He was once a lawyer. Maybe you can tell us all about it, Glenn. He's an adjunct professor at SFU and chair of the board of directors of Resolve, Inc. in Washington, D.C. He's a global leader building solutions through creative partnerships. And he is also the Honorary Consul General of Iceland in BC and the author of a recent memoir, Vikings on a Prairie Ocean. Thank you, Glenn. Thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Okay, are you able to, am I on the screen here or what? Okay, start my video. So, okay, here we go. Okay, here we are. Can you see me here? Am I set up? This is my first conversation of this nature.
We can see you very well.
Okay, good. So, first thing, I'm no expert on this. That's for certain. But when Paula approached me to talk about the possibility of participating in this tonight, I was intrigued with it for many reasons. And since then, I've been thinking a lot about it. I guess the first thing that I've been thinking about is that while we're having to adjust to physical distancing, it really is not about physical distancing that we need to manage. It's really to understand what it's going to take to continue to work through social distancing, because the two are not synonymous. Physical is one thing, social is another. And that's really what I want to talk about a little bit tonight. This is a little distracting to me. Am I full thing? Because all I see in front of me, Axel, is is my own screen. Is that how this works? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you. Yes,
Yes.
it's like Pablo
Hear
is
you.
sharing his screen. So
Yeah,
it's okay because we can see
okay,
you.
so everything is fine at your end.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, good enough. The reason that if somebody thinks I'm inadequate here, they'll go back to the fact that I'm no expert in this, and this is the first time I've actually participated in this way on a webinar. I've certainly sat in and listened to many, but I've never participated in this kind of a direct way. So I am a bit uncomfortable, a little bit nervous, even though I spent my life in the middle of complex kind of environments, talking with multiple players in multiple ways. Now suddenly all I've got in front of me is a screen. So I guess the first thing is, if you're like me, a man who works in the space between various players and interests and power and value and all these diverse parties that are trying to find a way if they can move forward out of conflict, then the first thing you kind of appreciate is that you're always trying to manage a space as to how they're going to feel safe in having a conversation. And I guess the first thing about having to adapt to this new world of finding a way to continue connections, notwithstanding the space between us now physically, is that it is a new environment, and for many people they're going to grow into it. But I think that's really the point that Paula was making, that if we really look at our lives, and you look at an organization like Latincouver, or you look at my own life, or all of our lives, it is like a river, and it moves at different times in different ways through different obstacles. Sometimes it's working over rapids, sometimes there's deep canyons, sometimes it's flat and even plains, sometimes the weather is very adverse. And all of these different kind of environments require us to continue to adapt and change the way the boat that we're traveling on is working within those environments, and each of them are different. So I guess I could take that and elevate that to a metaphor beyond just a river and say the context is constantly changing around us in many different ways. And each time the context changes, we need to adjust the way we're working within the space between. And that's really, I guess, the first point. Usually the context doesn't change as profoundly and dramatically as it has, and as quickly as it has with COVID-19. I sometimes think about it in this way. Human hubris has finally been knocked to its knees by an invisible invader, and it is challenging every aspect of who we are, how we think, how we relate to each other, and how we're going to continue to connect. So we're living through something that is profound, instant, quick, dynamic change of context. So the question always is, in any change environment, and when I was working in big fisheries disputes, this was a very big reality, because much of you would know just from being part of the BC community or wherever you are in a fishing related world where we rely on the resources of the ocean as our biggest farm in the world, the constant changes of the dynamics of the fishery are always evolving. There's shortages of certain stocks, there's changing stocks, there's changing weather, there's all kinds of influences biologically and ecologically that challenge the fish. And the biggest insight that I took from working there was a man who used to be the head of the commercial fishery, and he said, the question is not how we're going to stop change. It's how we're going to make change work for us. And that's really the issue. How do we make change work for us? So Paola and Latincouver have now taken the initiative of saying, well, let's start a conversation. So I look at this as beginning to grow a conversation in which we can all share our own insights, both at this stage and as we continue to move through this journey. Tonight, interestingly, just as I was about to come onto the screen here, I got a text from my granddaughter, and she was on Zoom, and she was showing me how she was taking her dance class. She's a wonderful dancer, and she's trying out for competitive dancing. And she usually would be at a physical dance studio tonight, but tonight they're doing it on Zoom. And she was showing me. And I told her that Ave, the word in Icelandic, Ave is going to be on Zoom too, Scarlett. So we'll both be doing something new. But already you can see how rapidly things were changing. Within a day of this really starting to build momentum, I got emails from people. The first email was from a close friend of mine at SFU, and she sent me a poem from Wordsworth, who at those kinds of times looked to nature as the fundamental source of guidance, as the peace of mind, how we can understand the world around us, and to look at the natural world. And that was a great focus on much of the poetry of the great British poet Wordsworth. Then I got a note, and it was to the effect that the greatest discovery in the Middle Ages was that of um, um, uh, oh, it slipped my mind all of a sudden, but the man who developed and understood gravity, you know, the apple falling and gravity, and I've suddenly lost focus on what his name was. And the third was that Shakespeare wrote both his plays, King Lear and Macbeth, during the time of the, it was Newton, thank you, Rafael. Newton. Shakespeare wrote both of those plays during the time that he was quarantined for a year in the plague in the Middle Ages. So the first thing is, maybe now we've got the time and the focus to do things that we wouldn't otherwise have done. And that's the first sign of resiliency. Can we draw into ourselves and from ourselves new and creative and innovative ideas that we can share with others? Then I think we need to move one step beyond this to say that there's two kinds of aspects of how we're going to grow through this. One is the technical, obviously, and many people are technical experts far beyond any of my capacity or what it will ever be. But on the other hand, I do understand the power of story, and I do understand the power that drawing from your own knowledge and your own story is able to give you insights into how you're going to deal with this. So if you just think about the kinds of things that have happened to you in your life that are sudden dramatic changes in the river, and what did you draw from within yourself that you can reflect back on and say, how can I put that knowledge and experience to work here in a practical way? So if you take my own background, my own life, I'm Icelandic. When the Icelanders first came here and were driven out of Iceland in 1875 by huge volcanic eruptions that destroyed the agricultural base of the land, many other adverse circumstances, they ended up in one of the most impossibly difficult journeys that would take them to the shores of Lake Winnipeg in the middle of Canada. I won't go into all of what that involved at this stage in any, so don't be concerned that I'm going to go in some off in some tangent. But the first thing that confronted them, in addition to 3 feet of snow, they arrived the end of October, and within about 13 or 14 days, they were confronting up to 3 feet of snow. They didn't have any buildings. They had nothing. They were basically trying to throw together a place to survive 2,500 people, or literally on the barren northern shores of Lake Winnipeg. And within 6 months, they had smallpox. And they were quarantined with the Indigenous and Icelandic people for over a year and a half within a large tract of land. They were quarantined. They could only go out if they were deloused, sprayed, all kinds of things to make it up to Winnipeg. This is about 100 miles. In the fishing world, and I go back to that, I grew up in Lake Winnipeg in a fishing family. Oftentimes, when I was with my dad, the first 10 days of September, it blew every day. And you could only live and expect and wait and work, expecting that the fish would come and the winds would stop. Those are just kind of examples that I draw to my own life as I think about these things. So I believe that the power of drawing on your own stories, your own ideas, and Paola had a wonderful expression when I chatted with her the other day, and it was to the effect that everyone has their own way of peeling the egg. And that's a very important kind of insight, because we need to recognize that if we start growing this conversation and we build these webinars, everybody is going to kind of be downloading what it is that they're taking and what they're learning and what they can draw from their past. So I believe we need to build a dialogue about the kind of dialogue that's going to enable us to confront and manage the change, because the real social capital of any group of people is not how they can agree on things, it's how they manage the changes that are confronting them, whether it's disagreements, differences, or extraordinarily challenging changes in the context around them. So I think I'm going to stop there, but I leave one final point. Let's make sure that what we're understanding here is that we have to cross the divide in respect to social distancing, which is something very different. Physical distancing will continue for some time, as it must. But that doesn't mean that we can't find creative new ways of managing so that we aren't socially distant and we're not drawing on each other's ingenuity, talents, and growing together a conversation that help build resiliency for Latincouver, for the business network that's around it, and to use this as a way to bring a whole range of different points of view and perspectives into conversation. Thanks. Okay. Is that it?
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, no, I just don't know what's happening now.
Yeah, no worries. Like we have and like mute our microphone, so that's why. But now Pablo is continuing. Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you, Glenn. I think that we're all learning now in these new tools. So we are adapting and learning, as you said. So thank you so much for being part of the conversation right now.
Thanks so much, Glenn. Thanks for being here. Please stick around for the Q&A. We're going to have a session of questions afterwards. So now we're going to go with our next speaker. He's going to talk about the business model adaptation. He's Rafael Marques from Brazil. He was born in Sao Paulo. Rafael has degrees in physical education and business administration. After years of experience working with marketing and communication in Brazil, he made his first experience of living abroad at age 27, studying English for 1 year in Vancouver, this beautiful city. Within the next 2 years in Canada, he acquired experience working in the marketing department at an English school and in sales at an international study exchange company for Latin American students. As a natural entrepreneur, 3 years later, he founded a company called Nexus, Intercambio, in 2009. And since then, has been contributing to advances in the international studies exchange industry through innovations and development of educational programs that have opened numerous doors for international students to pursue their dreams of a new career in Canada. Nexus is today one of the largest Brazilian companies in the international studies exchange sector in Vancouver. Specialist in education and new business development, his greatest passion is to support people in the dream of starting a new life in Canada and contributing to creating a better world by making a positive impact on people's lives. Welcome, Rafael. Bem-vindo.
Thank you. Obrigado. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you all for the opportunity. And this is a great idea to bring us all together here tonight to discuss things that are very important in this kind of situation, which is the communication and the connectiveness of our community. As Paola mentioned before, and also Glenn just mentioned about the connections and all the importance of us trying to not increase the space between us, but actually make it smaller and looking for opportunities that will rise within this situation at the same time. So what I wanted to discuss today is more towards the business model and how to adapt when we have several external factors that plays a so important role in companies, especially small companies. Small companies are more sensitive to situations like this. So basically, I have a story to share of what happened to Nexus in the first year that we started operations in Canada. So I originally started Nexus in 2009, and that was in Brazil. Operations were in Brazil. And in 2013, I moved back to Canada, and in 2014, I incorporated Nexus company here. And the business model at the time was to sell programs that were a combination of English plus internship. Usually it was a very easy product to sell because a lot of people need to learn English and they needed to work to make a living here while they're studying. So that was a very easy program to sell, and the entire company was based on that model. So it was just sell those programs, get the people here. Usually companies like Nexus, we work with commissions, and we get the commissions paid by the schools. So we don't charge the student any differential, any upcharge or anything. It's just the schools that pay us. However, 6 months right after incorporating the business, Immigration Canada has made a big change in the regulations. And one of the most important ones was that they canceled the English Plus internship program. Now, for a company that had just established, based on the entire business model in selling those programs, we had to be very adaptive and trying to find solutions to continue providing services for our market, because we didn't just want to close the business saying, okay, this is it, we don't have anything to do anymore. So instead of doing that, what we did, we looked into the rules, we understand what was the next thing that were coming up, and we found that the post-secondary programs, colleges and universities, were the next product that the market would be accepting to. So basically what we did, we went to universities and colleges, we signed contracts with them, we learned a lot about how it is to sell a program. Bear in mind that these programs are more expensive. They require higher entry requirements, such as English level, and education and all that. And we, at the same time, we also have to teach all these clients how to enroll to such programs and show to them how important they would be in their future life, either in Canada or back in Brazil. But then we found something very interesting. And this is what I wanted to bring more attention to this conversation. You can't find excellent solutions when you have situations like we're having today thrown at you. So because we were forced to adapt and look for other solutions, we found what for many, many years was the #1 product selling in the Brazilian market here in Vancouver, which were the programs, the part-time programs at BCIT. Very famous, hundreds and hundreds, not to say millions of Brazilians have taken this program. Not millions, sorry. I forgot the counting word for that. But anyways, hundreds and hundreds of people have taken this program. And it was very successful to the point where now we have set Nexus as one of the specialist companies in the post-secondary education in Canada, meaning that we became sort of a reference. So whenever people are looking for this type of programs in Canada, they eventually come and talk to us. And at the same time, the business model shifted quite a bit. When we were selling English courses plus internship, we were getting the commission upfront before the students started the program. Now that we're selling post-secondary education, we're getting the commission almost a year after the student has enrolled to the program. So that plays a big impact in the company financials as well. So that was another way we had to adapt. But in adapting to that, we also learned how to grow. We had to grow the numbers so we would have a higher cash flow. With that, we started to learn how to use that cash flow more smart, so we won't have to have any sort of hit whenever we have a similar situation, which is happening right now. Right now, we have a situation where schools are closing down in terms of having physical classes, and they're offering online classes to our students. Some students, they don't want to come to Canada and have online classes, so they're either canceling or postponing their starting dates. But because we have planned ourselves financially, this is not being the big hit in the company. And that was only possible because what we learned in the first time. So from now on, what I wanted to point out is whenever there is a situation like this, instead of looking at the immediate threat that it's happening, the best thing you can do is trying to figure out, it's kind of trying to know the future even though we can't. You have to try to predict what is going to be the impact of what's happening now in 6 months, in a year. And now it's the time for you to figure out the solution for you, how you want to be 6 months in a year from now. So, for example, all the schools and accommodations and any business related to that rely on actually international people coming into Canada, they're going to be suffering the hit of this COVID-19. Not now, but in 6 months from now, because that's the impact of people canceling their trip right now. It's not now. It's going to be people are canceling trips and courses and programs in 6 months from now. So as a school, as a business related to this industry, what can you do now to make sure that when that time comes, you would have the number of students you were predicting you would have before this situation? So with that mindset, And that's the kind of mindset that I'm recommending people to look at this situation. What can we do now to forecast how we want it to be 6 months from now, the same way as if the situation hadn't happened? And that's where you should be working at. There is the immediate threat. You have to deal with the situation that's happening now, but you also have to start working on your future business plan. So this is the proper time to do that. And that's what we're doing right now at Nexus. I guess I'm getting to my time here, so I won't delay or anything else in the program. So thank you very much for the opportunity, and I'll be open for questions later if you guys have any.
Thank you so much, Rafael. Thanks for your insights, for your story. We're definitely all revising our business model, and you probably get some questions about that in the Q&A. And I'm gonna stop sharing my screen because our next guest, our next speaker, Andrea Welling, who is the Regional Director for BC and Yukon for Futurpreneur Canada. Since March 2019, she's been holding that role, but for 7.5 years before, she worked at the YMCA, where she managed the EI self-employment programs in Vancouver, the Sunshine Coast, and the Kootenays. Andrea has a BA in Political Science and Business from the University of Calgary and a master's degree in Women's Study from the Simon Fraser University. Her master thesis was focused on food security, local economic development, and women in business. After completing her master's degree, Andrea decided to become an entrepreneur and co-founded Ladybug Organics Home Delivery in the Fraser Valley. It was a home delivery food service. The experience of being an entrepreneur fuels Andrea's passion for the work she does today at Futurpreneur Canada. Welcome, Andrea. Great having you here.
Great. Thanks so much, Latincouver. It's great to speak to all of you. Thanks to Paola, Pablo, and the team for inviting me. It's great to be here. I'm currently with Futurpreneur Canada as a regional director for BC and Yukon. So we're trying to help startups, younger people, 18 to 39, to start businesses. And so I thought today I would talk a little bit about startup businesses and also maybe some measures and things that you can look at during this crisis that we're facing and some of those challenges. And just want to thank fellow speakers, Glenn and Rafael, for your inspiring messages, as well as Paola's one about recalculating. I really enjoyed that. So thank you so much. So a little bit of a story about some business resilience. We had an organic food company and we basically built it from the ground up. We started with a small van and a small barn, and eventually we built up to about $1 million in sales with a full staff team, and we eventually bought a warehouse and had thousands of products and delivered that, and it was quite a going concern. In the very beginning, with the people we hired, we didn't really know how to hire people. We would just bring them on and we would just kind of meet them somewhere and say, hey, start with us. And so one of the hardest times I ever had was having to actually let somebody go. I don't know if you've ever done that in your small business or ever had to experience it, but it's really a hard thing to do, and really very many sleepless nights before I had to let this person go. And it really built some resilience in me that I had to learn how, in my own startup, how to really manage people fairly, and that we needed more of a process for hiring people and bringing employees on. And I think something that is really important during this whole crisis, even though we're needing to be physically apart from each other, is just as Glenn was saying, that we don't actually stay socially apart, we stay connected, and that we really think about the people that are working for us and with us and what do they really need. And so that's really part of my message today and what I wanted to talk about. Obviously, I'd been watching this whole crisis unfold and watching the leaders in our world, seeing what they were saying. And I want to really commend Futurpreneur. We decided last week to close our offices and not have events and work from home. And so I think one thing, if you're looking at your own startup and your own enterprise, if you have any way to have your people telework or work from home, that's a great place to start. And a great place to start figuring out your technology. So can you use Zoom, like this great technology we're using today that I think there's versions that are free? Can you use Slack? Can you use other forms of technology to bring us together? We're going to be using Microsoft Teams. We've also used WebEx. So how can you work at a distance remotely, allow your employees maybe to not be as close as they need to be, but still be able to connect? And then if you are working at home, something we've been working on in our organization is just how to do that well. So we've got some different channels through our communication to share about working from home, and some of those challenges, some of the people that work with us have children and families. So how are they balancing that? And how is our organization being really compassionate that they're allowing people to work from home in a really compassionate way? So I think a big piece of this is about people and about seeing how we can help each other. So I think one of the things we're doing with Futurpreneur is we're working with entrepreneurs day to day and seeing how they're helping their staff, and do they need any help or any relief measures, and we're definitely working on doing that. I think a couple things people are doing, a couple of the measures I wanted to bring up that the government is providing that I think are really important that everybody should know about. If you haven't looked up Small Business BC or the BC government, I definitely recommend that you do that. And they're talking about a business continuity plan, and that by being aware of your employees and to help them, help you take action through your networks. Asking yourself, is there ways we can adjust our offerings? How can we communicate with our staff if we need to have lower hours? How can we set up employment insurance? So EI is going to be available. A couple of the things the federal government is providing, they're going to be providing a 10% wage subsidy for 90 days up to a maximum of $1,375 per employee and up to $25,000 for employers. And these are going to be for nonprofits and small businesses. There's also going to be some help for payment deductions on taxes. There's also going to be credit available to small, medium, and large businesses, a credit availability program. Some of you may have heard about the Business Development Bank of Canada, and they've come out with some different measures to help entrepreneurs and startups. Up to $100,000 can be obtained online. So if you go to BDC and you check out their website or email them, you can also contact me, awelling@futurpreneur.ca, if you want any of these resources. Make sure to be in contact with them to see how they can provide some relief measures. Because obviously for some small businesses, it's going to impact them right away, and they might need to see where they can get help. So one thing I can also say, having been a business owner, is that we didn't always ask for help. That we sometimes, when we got into difficult situations, we tried to do it yourself. And this is very typical, I think, also for people who are sometimes newer to our country or don't really understand everything that's happening, is you want to feel empowered to do it yourself, but to really encourage everyone to ask for help and ask what the government, where you can get help in the community, because the community really wants to help you. It doesn't help any of us if people really fall down here and aren't going to stay robust and healthy. So please ask those questions. You know, we want to make sure that no one should feel like they have to lay off someone because of the virus, and no one should have to worry about their jobs. And so the government of Canada, it does have $1 billion response fund. And so I know I'm sounding like I mean, we're a nonprofit, we get government funding, but I just do want to let you know that the government really is wanting to be there for us. You know, BC has a strong, diversified, and growing economy, and small business plays a huge role. The vast majority of the businesses in our province, over 500,000, have fewer than 50 employees. And the small business community, we need to support the jobs and industries that are created there. And so this is where we all are going to need to come together to see how we can be creative. And the way that you've been so responsive with this webinar and being creative and bringing people together, I think is showing such leadership in the community today. And I really want to commend your agility and your responsiveness so quickly. I would have gone with a whole slide deck, but I didn't quite have enough time myself to put all that together around Futurpreneur, but I would definitely look forward in the future to providing more around resources. So another area I'm really passionate about is just resources. So making sure that no matter, obviously our organization helps for 18 to 39, whether you're 39, 49, 69, or 99, or maybe 109, we want to make sure that you're safe through this crisis, and that if you're going through any experiences, that you get help. So just feel free to reach out. You can always reach out to myself or my team, and if we can help you, we'll find someone that will. Within the startup community, a few more resources that I really know about. If you're a woman and you're starting a business or you're wanting need support, Women's Enterprise Center is an excellent resource. If you are a newcomer and in part of the community, please reach out to the YMCA. This is a previous employer. We were really committed to making entrepreneurship accessible. Also, that there's ISS, Success, Diversity. Many of the immigrant serving organizations are really there with different programs to help people, especially if you're in transition, but also with self-employment for building your business plans and making sure that you're ready and prepared. Also, Small Business BC. So Small Business BC is really taking a leadership role in the community and coming up with different ideas and processes around business continuity plans and questions to ask and resources. So feel to reach out to them, and they do beautiful things like award ceremonies, and they inspire entrepreneurs, across the province. So feel free to reach out to them if you need any help or assistance. So I guess, some final tips as you're working from home and just wanting to, make sure that you get outside, get some exercise and fresh air. We can all do that. We can all do that and stay healthy. I think you may have heard a message from the government to help each other. So if you're able to help a neighbor or someone in need get some food or some toilet paper or something that somebody needs, please look at it. And just want to just remind you that, again, if you're a small business and that's really where you're struggling to, please feel free to be in touch, futurpreneur.ca, or you can look me up on LinkedIn. It's Andrea Welling, awelling@futurpreneur.ca, and would look forward to connecting with you on anything that you need. And looking forward to seeing how we can be feeling inspired and creative in this new landscape, and doing well to give our own self-care when we're starting to feel negative or down. So thanks everybody for listening to my messages, and I'm really here to support and care for anyone who's needing help. So thanks very much, and look forward to the Q&A.
Thank you, Andrea. Thanks so much for, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thanks so much for being here. It's been amazing. I'm back in video too. Thanks for sharing this, and we'll now go for the Q&A part of our event. I'm gonna share my screen so we can elegantly do the Q&A. And there you go. So from our team, Paola Cero will be helping us with the questions. Paola, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so Paola will help us with the Q&A.
Okay, so we have two questions for Glenn. One from Claudia Gonzalez, and she's asking, I would like to know your biggest challenge, the biggest challenge that you can share with us.
The biggest challenge? Well, most of my life has been working in the middle of extremely complicated situations, but what I'd like to do is actually ask myself right at the moment about what the biggest challenge is going forward. So let me put it into a context that you may be able to relate to. oftentimes in the past, oh, start my video. Okay, here. I will get better at this. I am growing. So when I was working on a major case involving reconfiguring, recalculating, recalibrating the way we were going to make decisions and resolve differences in the Pacific salmon industry, I worked on that file for about 5 years. There was 140 meetings that were involved between a multiplicity of players. And in the course of that, over 120 of them were by conference call. Now, one of the things I learned in that process was the absolute power of the human voice, because it's through voice that you communicate emotion, you communicate a sense of understanding, and you're able to recalculate whether or not you've got the message right from the person. And oftentimes the written word, whether it's emails or text, has muted our voice. And I think one of the things that we're going to have to confront now is if we really want to understand the dynamics and the emotional connection, and it is about emotions that connect us. How does somebody feel about it? How are they responding? Are we getting the message right? I think we're going to have to start relying to a much greater degree as we go forward in picking up the phone, not texting, because that's the only way that you can really begin to feel and understand what the person is like. So in those conference calls, I came to understand that once I knew the person, I could imagine them on how they're responding. I could imagine their face. I could anticipate exactly by the smallest grumble or murmur on the line what was going through their mind in a way that I could never do in an email or a text. So I think one of the things that I learned from that challenge, which was a daunting challenge, to pull together all of the commercial fisheries, the Native First Nation Indigenous fisheries, the government of BC, the government of Canada, all of the recreational sector, and the tourism sector, all into one dynamic conversation over 5 years with all of these multiplicity of players was a big challenge. But the most powerful tool we had was the conference call, and the most powerful tool that I had in dealing with it and the other parties was our human voice. I think that one of the aspects of that is how can we restore voice? Maybe we should be listening to more audio books as opposed to just reading. We must think about creative ways that we're going to be able to make a connection. So that's a way I would connect my biggest challenge to what I think the challenge is going forward.
Thank you, Glenn. Thank you very much. You have another question here, and is you have reinvented yourself frequently. How have you accomplished it?
I think this goes to everybody.
Yes, I think that it goes through everybody.
So somebody else should answer first before me. I can answer at the end.
Sure.
Rafael, I don't know. Somebody else other than me. I've talked enough here.
Well, I can go ahead. In terms of reinventing myself, I think it's sort of having a big picture vision of my values and how I want to be in the world, and then stepping away from that and seeing what can I do now? What are my next steps? So I find it's been a process of those two things, the bigger picture and the next steps. What's my next step? And in working with people, I often find that it's kind of that kind of a conversation where it's, what do you need? What do you value? What's important to you? And then saying, so what can be your next step? And what can you do now? And I think especially with what we're facing right now, every day we're going to face with, well, what do we need to do to make things happen? But how can we still keep the bigger picture? And I think the bigger picture, Glenn, as you mentioned, is staying connected. How can we every day stay connected and keep that value strong when it might be easy to let that slip away? So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, I think that I think is for everyone, right? Like we all are reinventing ourselves every day, and I feel like the major times that I feel like I reinvent myself is every time I move from one place to another. You know, moving when I was 16 to the US, then going to, when I was 24, to France, and then from France to Colombia, reconnecting again who I am as a Colombian. You know, when you move from one place to another, I think that you need to reinvent yourself and to understand who you are, but then you go to your basics. And I think that that's where stages like right now also help us to understand what is our skills. In moments where we are reinventing ourselves is when we are actually starting to learn more about us and what is the skill that we can offer to society. So I feel like in this reinventing from one place to another, I have gained a lot of strength, and I have gained to know me, and again, to offer something to the bigger picture. So that's my takeaway from this.
Okay, I guess I can share something. Reinventing yourself, it's very interesting. For I guess most of us, we've moved countries, we've learned new languages. These are all challenging things to do. And what's interesting is that you not only get to know yourself better, but it kind of feels younger as well. So this is really cool. And it keeps your energy level very, very high. And it feels like you can do anything pretty much, right? It's because you're not afraid of a challenge. You learn how to deal with it, and you grow stronger, and you get to know more people, you know, and so I can only see good things about it, and as long as we face challenges this way and we keep adapting ourselves, this is going to be for our own benefit. Yeah, thank
I
you.
definitely agree. Thanks so much, everyone, for sharing this inspiring insight about how to reinvent yourself. Elvis from Ottawa. Hello to everyone in Ottawa. Thanks to all panelists for bringing great messages and inspiring others. I wonder if there are possibilities to extend Latincouver presence in Ottawa. We have a big Latino community, but lacks cohesiveness to establish business as a block. Thanks, Elvis Guerra. Saludos, greetings, Elvis. Paola, I think this one's for you.
It's myself. Yes, I think it's very important to make sure that people want to work together. I did face a lot of those challenges starting Latincouver about we will never connect, we will never work together, everyone think differently, it's only this community. So I think that those challenges are going to be always there. But I think that we need to, if it's I would love Latincouver will expand over there, but we need to find a leader as well that is there, that is ready to take the hard work of bringing the community together and believe in themselves. So I think that I would love to say, let's try to expand to Latincouver in Ottawa. Why not? That will be a new thing to do. But over everything, I think is finding that people that trust and want to connect. And many people is going to say no, but you always have to focus on the people who say yes. So the ones who say yes are the ones who you want to work. And if we can do Latincouver with somebody, and that can be, you know, if Elvia is there, and that we will be happy to work with her and start connecting. But I think that it's always trust that if, you know, like if you have a goal and you want to do it and you have the community, go for the people who say yes. Many people say no, but you just keep your line straight to where you want to go. So yeah, maybe why not? I'm happy to connect with the person and find some new ways to work together.
Thanks
Thank
for
you,
your
Paola.
question, Elvis.
Sorry.
Paola,
I have
go
another
ahead
question.
with the next question.
So I have another question. This is for Rafael. Now that most people are working from home, do you think it will become more common for online networking and flexible working? Do you think it is an efficient change?
I guess this is a perfect example of how it's going to look like, and to be honest, this is happening more and more. And as an example, Nexus operates in Canada, and our entire market, let's say 90% of our market, is in Brazil. And that's how I do networking. I do videos, we do webinars, we talk to people. And the most important is keep always your client in the first place, right? So what's important for your client? Whenever your client benefit, you will benefit as well, because your client will talk about you, and a referral values much more than a networking, in my opinion. So you can continue doing branding, you can continue talking about your company, talking about your services, talking about stories, everything you've done. But at the end of the day, a happy client means another client. And if you don't do your homework and you don't deliver on what you promised, you're not going to have good results, and your clients will talk about it. So yeah, online at work works just like this. Do seminars, you do webinars, and this kind of things, and it should be okay. Anybody else want to join, jump on and share something?
Okay, so I have another question for any of you from Elvia Pinilla. So one of the things that I have seen lately is the lack of humanity among people. Fear and panic can bring the worst in a lot of people. How can we recover humanity in situations like the one we are living right now?
I guess there's nothing that could as profoundly remind us of our degree of universal interconnectivity, vulnerability, and fragility than what's happening right now. It doesn't discriminate between people. It doesn't matter what class you're in, how much money you've got, where you live. This is bringing human hubris to the ground in a pretty powerful way. And we're learning that there are forces that are so powerful that can impact our life that are invisible, that they can basically cause us to rethink everything about who we are, how we relate to each other, and how we're going to build a world together. So this actually may be a point where there is a greatest potential to rebuild humanity. We've got many, many problems in the world today that are fundamentally challenging us to work together in more effective ways, whether it's climate change. We reached a place here now where, just as there's invisible forces that are moving at a microbial level, leveling us, we've got things going on in the global environment around us that are impacting us to no less a degree. We've got to recognize that unless we solve some of those problems as a globe, we simply can't solve them, that they're insolvable. And the last 20 years of playing around with climate change, it's never about the climate and the gas, the carbon dioxide that's moving there. It's about the organizational structures and frameworks that make it impossible for us to work effectively together and make decisions, whether I'm working in a complex fishery or working in the middle of these climate change issues since 1998. I first created a greenhouse gas forum here in BC with all of the 40 players, from the business council to the to environmental groups, to every possible constituency. So I think that this is powerful. The next thing that it's powerful is that it's restoring, I think, some fundamental recognition that we have to rely on people who know and have spent their lives studying and becoming experts. And we're going to maybe restore some respect for expertise, because now we're totally dependent on the medical community and in all of its dimensions, from those folks that are working on the front lines and nurses and care aides, to the doctors, to the research scientists, to the people that are epidemiologists. We have no choice. And we've come to a place in the world where our common humanity has lost any respect for the fact that that science has something to teach us, and people decry science and they say that there's no room for it in something like climate change. So I'm not sure that this isn't a great opportunity to rebuild humanity. I know this, that emails and texts do not communicate emotions, and humanity is based on emotions, and until we start figuring out a way how we're going to cross that gap, we're going to have great issues going forward, and people are going to get isolated, they're going to get depressed, there's going to be a lot of mental issues that people are confronting. So there is a real need to find ways to connect. Too long a comment, but I've been thinking a lot about this lately, because there is some very big learnings here, because this is such a profound change in context that it's almost unimaginable how quickly the world is transformed, and every single person in it. Who are you? You are who you are becoming. And we're having to become something different suddenly.
Thank you, Glenn. You give us a lot to think about right now, and it is a great opportunity to take new challenges and to see what the new agenda will be. Because of course, there's good people, well, not good and bad people, but people with better intentions, and there's people who are using also the crisis to push agendas that will not benefit humanity as a whole as well.
Yes.
So we have another question. This is going to be the last question from F. Perello. One important task of a business owner or manager is to network with potential clients. What suggestion do you all have on how to network with potential clients during these times? In the past, we've attended conferences, association events, etc. So we need to figure out new ways of connecting with those potential clients that we haven't met. Any thoughts?
Andrea here. So one tool, I think, if you're not on LinkedIn, I would highly recommend it. And there's a messaging feature so you can reach out to people on LinkedIn. And if you grow your network, you can ask them to have a phone call or a Zoom meeting. And I know that I do this on a constant basis. Recruiting mentors and strategic partners is using social media and LinkedIn. And if you're not able to do that, get someone to help you do it. But I just I just highly recommend that. And just thinking about your previous client list, if you have a past client list, if you can make a list of people that you can maybe reconnect with to have existing business and find reasons to say hello, this can be very, very powerful to keep being top of mind.
I'm going to say something about it too. I think that we have been, like, as I mentioned before, I think that we're very lucky that we're not 20 years before, right? Like, we have now all this way of technology. Like, for us, we are all the time through Instagram, Facebook, even this webinar, we have few people that I'm sure we don't know. And we are looking forward to connect with these people for to be part of the organization in some way as a volunteer, partners, sponsors, members. So I think even webinars like this, it will connect us with people that we don't know. And that's the interest of creating different ways of doing things. I actually, talking about the last question that Elvia had as well, and in the same way as connecting, I like to put the example of what the Italians are doing right now. They are connecting even when they're at the house. They are finding ways to dance and to have a good time, even if they're in their houses. So I think that we will find humans, if something we do well, is that we are very creative. And and so many new ways that we'll have to start thinking. Like we find ways to solve our problems. And now we're talking about LinkedIn, social media, Facebook, Twitter, all of those. But I'm sure that there are going to come new other tools that we need to be on top of it and see what is the one that it will adjust better to reach that new person that we want to connect with.
Thank you so much, Paola. Thanks, everyone. Thanks to our speakers, Glenn, Andrea, Rafael, Paola. Glenn, Andrea, is there anything you would like to add to this question? You're all muted. There's some silence. Hold on. Unmute.
No, I think it's been a very interesting evening, and I hope that it kind of triggers and starts something. I think somebody made the point that that's very, I think it was you, Andrea, that it's very inspiring, the proactivity that Latincouver is demonstrating here. And I think it's an extremely important thing to get into motion, and hopefully it will trigger kind of a momentum that will carry forward, and we'll continue to grow and learn as we go forward in managing what is an extraordinarily difficult challenge. And for some people, it's going to put them under huge mental pressure and ultimately physical, enormous physical insecurity, and for some people much deeper than that.
That's right. And Andrea?
Yeah, and I just want to echo what Glenn's saying. My experience working with people remotely is when you don't have enough contact, people get paranoid. And so I really encourage you to stay close to your tight circle, that 6-7 people around you that really nurture you, but just also stay connected to the larger community, and just to keep reaching out and keep talking to people, because it will reduce that. It's a tendency that people have. We start to get inward. It's exactly what Glenn's saying mentally. There's an unhealthiness to the social isolation, and we have to be so careful. Vancouver's already at risk with this. So I think just encouraging ourselves and people around us to continue to stay connected while staying safe is going to be one of our greatest challenges. But I know that as Vancouver, we can do this. Fortunately, we're coming into spring. At least maybe we can be outdoors and at least be near each other. And that's what I noticed being outside today with my son, was just being near each other. So let's see how we can be near and careful and safe without becoming isolated. Thanks so much. It's been a great opportunity to bring us together. I hope to be able to join you again in the future.
Thank you so much. And insisting on that social distancing is not social isolation. It's just 3 meters away. You can even have a conversation with someone in the park. No problem. Paola, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I want to say again, thank you. I really appreciate that all the panelists came in at short notice in a subject that none of us is an expert. We're just using our experiences as what we have lived through this and how we can cope for the future. But I think that this is our main objective as organization, is to bring the community together. The Latinos, we have many entrepreneurs, and I would like to see how we can support even better the community. I know we have few entrepreneurs here in the community doing creating, hiring, like they have companies and they have employees and, small businesses that they need their support. So Future Entrepreneur is going to be one of those tools, a small business VC. And please, we want to echo that Latincouver is here to provide this platform to connect our community. We're just finding new ways. We have a great team that I'm very proud they are here, and that actually Pablo is one, Paola, Ana, Axel, Rafael. Like, we have a strong team, and we believe that if we continue bringing the community together, we are definitely going to create some results together. I think we have, I would love to see one of our members or somebody in the community who can also, if it's possible, to listen. I know we have just the panelists, but Pablo, do you think that is anyone there in the community that would like that to ask a question to any of us before we go?
Yes, as you all know, people who have been watching this webinar is presented by the Latin Canadian Business Network. Those of you who are asking how to connect, how do I find new clients, find new friends, find new peers, find some assistance, some consulting, and that's what this network is about, is to build bridges between Latin America and Canada. And now we have one of our members from LCBN here, Francisco Cano, who can tell you more about his experience as a member of LCBN. And I will also give the word to Axel de la Peña, who will tell you more about the LCBN program for those of you who want to become part of the most amazing Latin Canadian business network. Thank you.
Hi, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Well, my name is Francisco Cano. We have ESL school from Gaston, Vancouver, and uh, we started this journey like 2 years ago with a partner from Mexico. And when we decide to do this ESL school, we asked what will be different from different schools. So we went, we did a research, and we went to digital. So one of the main things now is we were teaching with our own iPads with Google Classrooms and with the ESL library and with different platforms. But we were having the students here. So what happened is we were thinking doing everything online in the future, but with this coronavirus, like last week, we were checking how to implement it online. And we tried on Thursday and Friday with the teachers and the academic director. And now, like on Monday, it was our first day. Our teacher, the first day was 25% mostly of whatever was teaching in like whatever was the 6 hours. So he was teaching only 25%, but the other teacher was teaching mostly 85%, whatever was that percent of the effectivity of whatever we teach in the 5 hours or 6 hours. So that was Monday. Tuesday, now both teachers, they are teaching almost 85% of whatever they were teaching in the normal classes. So I think we are now going to be online. We are already online, and I think in this case, we are in better advantage than other ESL schools. I think it has to be in mostly all the business. I think you need to go online, and the other ones is I think you need to go social responsible. So we are going to give it a lot of free classes by IELTS and by ESL, a specific group. So we are probably going to do something with you guys. But yeah, if someone want to teach on online, we are ready. It's just we are developing in which one. We have different, we don't have Zoom, but we have a Google platform with them. But maybe we'll change everything. Like Zoom, I'm just checking with you guys, and it's amazing how you are doing too.
Thank you, Francisco. Thanks for sharing your experience, your ways of coping with this coronavirus crisis, and thanks for being a member of LCBN.
Yeah, so thanks again, everyone. I guess it's now my turn to talk. My name is Axel. I'm sales development here at Latincouver. Just like to thank everyone for joining in, and for all the panelists for sharing their story. Now, I would like to talk to you about something very important, and this is the whole reason I think, or not the whole reason, but one of the reasons we're here together. And our sponsor LCBN, the Latin Canadian Business Network, put this together for us to network. Why and how to become a member now, a member of our Latin Canadian Business Network? This is a pretty important question on the why, and I'd like to thank all of the panelists that already made the argument for this on why to become a member now. Right now it's an important time to build these relationships, to have this network working for you, and actually to build strong networks that help you thrive in this uncertainty. LCBN has made a really, really great platform for everyone to connect, whether you're looking to connect with the community, looking to connect with new businesses here in BC. This is a great place for you to do it. Of course, we are resilient, and this is a new way for us to connect through webinars and digitally. So if you'd like to be connected, I will urge you to become one of our members and leverage all of the impact that Latincouver and the LCBN network has for you. We have over a decade of experience uh, working with the Latin Canadian community here in BC, doing networking events, creating business opportunities, all the way from newcomers, students that are looking to integrate into the community, entrepreneurs, small and big and large companies that are looking to grow in the market, in the Canadian market, and also big businesses that are looking to tap into the Latin American community here in BC, and also in Latin America as well. So right now, you guys, just by attending to this webinar, you already benefited from our network, from these discussions that we're looking to have and to continue to have with people, so they can learn and they can adapt to these new challenges. But also, you are already invited to our next event, to our next webinar, which is going to be in April. This is one way to stay connected with us. This is one way to continue the conversation and start building those relationships that you're looking for, that network that your business might be looking for, or you as a person, as an individual, is looking to have. This is right now some of our, these are actually our membership packages right now. We are offering you guys a special discount if you are looking to join right now. We have, like I said, again, membership packages all the way from people that are just looking, or students or job seekers, professionals looking to network, nonprofit organizations, entrepreneurs that are looking to grow, looking for mentorship as well. Also, small and medium businesses that are looking for marketing strategies, also to make connections here with the local government, with other businesses, and of course, large companies that are looking to tap into the Latin American community. So we'll be following up with each one of you guys that have attended this event with two things. We'll send you a survey with information if you like to stay connected with us. Also, be following up with you about these membership opportunities that you can come and join us. And of course, we'll be sending you the link to register to our next event, to our next webinar on April 15th, which is going to be really similar to this. And hopefully, really soon, we all be able to join in presence and in person, and get to know each other and network and interact with each other. So I don't know if there's any questions from the panel on how to join right now, or any other questions from the attendees.
I think that we can send the information through the emails that we are going to send tomorrow. We are going to just have some information from Andrea, Glenn, Paola, Francisco, Rafael, and we are going to put everything together in an email. Also with the packages that we have, with the membership that we have, and also with all the channels that we can offer to you from Latincouver and from LCBN as well. So we have the website from Latincouver, that is www.latincouver.ca, and also we have our LCBN.ca website that we are just finishing right now. We are working on it, but it's almost ready. We have also the link to give you the access to pay online for the packages, for the memberships that we have. So you will receive all the information tomorrow by email. Pablo already shared one of the links, but tomorrow you are going to receive everything on your email.
And we are, as you can see on the slide that Axel shared, we are offering a 20% discount right now for you to join the Latin Canadian Business Network. So even if you're a food business and want to find new clients, this is a great way for us to grow together. It is not an exclusive product for Latinos, as you can see. And we are also building bridges with businesses throughout Latin America who are eager to do business with Canada. So this is a great opportunity to grow your network, to become stronger together. Thank you so much to all our panelists, Andrea, Glenn, Rafa, Paola, and all of you who attended from all over Canada and Latin America. Thanks for being part of this event, and join us, be part of our community. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you
everyone.
so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. And just a good reminder that we're going to send a survey. Sorry to finish like this. We're going to be sending a survey to see how often we're going to be meeting. So it can be weekly or weekly. We don't know yet. It depends we're sending a survey to make sure that what the people wants to see more from us and the support that we can give to the community. So that's all. And thank you, everyone who was here. Andrea, thank you for the support. Glenn, Rafael, and all the team for putting this together. And let's try to continue working hard to go over this as well together. Thank you. Gracias.
Thank you.
Obrigada.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Have
you,
a good
everyone.
night. Stay safe. Wash your hands. Use antibacterial gel, anything you need.
Okay.
Social distancing, but connect. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.